Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's less than a week now until the reset happens. So what we're going to do today is just have a little bit of fun. We're going to explore some of the teams that we're going to be building towards and perhaps even speculate on what could be the meta for the shadow side. Now, I was going to do the light side as well in this video, but because it goes into quite some depth into these teams, I thought it might be better to split them up, so I will bring you the light side version earlier next week. I will try and keep some of the ability descriptions a little bit shorter, mainly because I don't want to put you guys to sleep while you're watching. If you do want some more information on these abilities so you can have a look at them yourself, there is a website that you can use. It is LOTR.gg. This will give you all the stats on the max characters, where you can actually find the characters to farm them, and just an overall really great help when you're trying to theory craft some of the teams that you might want to put together as you progress through the game. Now, so far with the shadow side, I have spoken about Isengard and Mordor. Both teams are a great starting team, but you have to put a ton of resources into them to get them to where you need them to be, and overall they're not really the most effective teams that you can have in the game. So this video is all about progressing past that early game into the mid and late game team that you can build for the shadow side that will be really effective for everything that you're going to be doing going forward. Now, this team is actually one that I get asked the most amount of questions about, seems to be building the most intrigue just from the other videos that I've done, and that team of course is the Goblins. Now, there may have been some confusion, maybe it was just the way that I said it. Some people were thinking that maybe the Goblins are a pay to play only team. That's not the case. They're just not going to be a team that you're going to be able to access early in the game. So I'm really going to focus on showing you guys where you can unlock these characters, when you can expect to have them, and just how they work together to make them such a formidable team. I'm going to go through each of these guys just so you understand why they can be so annoying to play against and how you can take advantage of building this team yourself. Some you'll get early, some will be a little bit later into the game, but you'll find that by the time you unlock Great Goblin, you'll probably have most of them, if not all of them, there so that you can actually put the team together. So what we'll do, we'll start with the Great Goblin here. Now, he does show up in the main store as I showed in my last video. You can unlock him with crystals. However, he is the login character, so if you log in every day, you will be able to unlock him. It'll take roughly 20 days, I think it was, before you unlock him, and then you'll keep building him up. Even for month 2, he is still the login character, so you'll be able to get him up to 4 stars, I think it is, by the end of that. Now, this guy can actually be used in other teams as well. Just remember that he is a large character, so he won't be able to be in other teams with trolls and things like that. But I have seen him in all kinds of random teams, even with light side characters, and he is just annoying. His base attack can do up to 210% damage once it is completely maxed out. He is a little on the slow side, so he doesn't attack all that often, but it's his second attack here that really makes him a pain. He summons the Goblin Thrasher. Now, the Goblin Thrasher is the goblin that taunts, and the more that you upgrade this attack, the stronger the Goblin Thrasher is that he summons. Now, if it's not bad enough that you've got one of these guys taunting, when you've got 2 of them taunting, it really makes it hard to take down those other goblins in the team. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the Thrasher in a minute, but we'll move on to his third ability here, which actually calls the goblins to not only just attack the primary target, but also 2 other random targets in the team. On top of that, you get bonus damage for every goblin alive in the team, and considering he can summon one of them, you can have up to 5 other goblins in the team at a time, so this attack can really start to build up and do a lot of damage. Now, for his passive, he gets even more annoying. As you kill his goblins, they just start doing more damage, and they're able to apply debuffs a lot easier. On top of that, he also gets an extra 20% max health once this ability is maxed out. So that's the Great Goblin. Next we're going to have a look at the Goblin Thrasher. And he is the first goblin that you're going to come across that you can farm. He's pretty early on, so in the guild campaign, he is the first node of chapter 2. Very easy to get, but we'll have a look at his abilities here. Now his base damage isn't all that good. However, this move can get up to 200% damage, so that does make up for it. Can also give himself protection from that base attack, which gives him an extra 50% armor. So just because you attack him doesn't mean he can't hit you back. But it's this second ability here that's really going to separate him from everybody else. Not only does he taunt, but he's going to whack you for 250% damage. And once this is maxed out, he can do that every 3 rounds. Now when you consider that Great Goblin can also summon one of these guys, so that means that you've got 2 taunts that you'll have to deal with every 3 rounds once both of those abilities are maxed out. For the third ability, this is a passive ability that when he is killed, he will actually come back again as a weaker version of himself. However, the more that you upgrade them, the stronger those replacements will be, and he can still taunt again. On top of that, he will grant protection to random allies. Then just to add insult to injury, because this guy does taunt, you have no choice but to hit him. And when the attacker does hit him, he has a chance to apply weaken to that attacker, which will actually cut your damage in half for the next attack. So if you think these guys sound annoying so far, let's add the next guy to the mix, and that's the Goblin Quickshot. Now this is the guy that hides behind those taunting goblins and really likes to do the damage. Now for his basic ability, he can get up to 185% damage just on his base attack, plus you get bonus damage for every bane that is on the target, or debuff as some people will call it. And the one thing that goblins are really good at doing is handing out those debuffs, so this guy is really good at doing the damage. Now if we have a look at his second ability here, maxed out, this will hit the primary target for 250% damage, and anyone standing next to him will get hit by 170% damage. Also from level 3, he also gets the deadly boon or buff, which increases his crit chance by 30%. Once that's maxed out, it goes for 2 rounds. And when you have a look at this ability, he will actually be able to do this every second round, which means when it comes around again, he's going to have that extra chance for it to be a crit. Now this guy can cut your team down pretty quickly if you're not careful, but if we move on to his passive ability here, again, once he is killed, he is replaced by another goblin with the same abilities. The more you upgrade that, the closer to the original one he will be. Also keeping in mind that he will get that bonus damage from the Great Goblin's passive, so this can really be a character that's going to pack a punch and keep packing a punch if you don't get rid of him pretty quickly. And his other passive ability on spawn gives him an extra 2% crit chance per goblin ally. Now if you don't think this guy's dealing out enough damage, give him some extra crit chance and see how that pans out. And just to laugh at you just a little bit more, this passive also grants him some extra damage on top of everything else. Now this guy's not actually available until the light side chapter 4 hard node number 5. He will unlock at 1 star, so very easy to unlock. But another reason why you need to build that light side team in the early game so that you can unlock some of these better characters a lot faster. But Goblin number 4 is another damage dealer here, and that's the Goblin Batmaster, available from the arena store. Unlocks at 2 stars, so you'll need 45 shards to get him. So this could take 1 to 2 weeks depending on where you finish in the arena to get enough tokens to unlock him. And it depends on if you do want to unlock Shagrat as well. Shagrat's much easier to unlock, but you can work on both of those guys at the same time. This guy here, a very important part of the team. His base attack when maxed does 175% damage, and it also applies bleed just for that extra passive damage. Maxed out, that passive damage is over 2 rounds as well. The other thing is this is also another debuff, so therefore you're adding to some of those other abilities for the other goblins that just helps all of that pack even more damage onto your opponent. Now for the next ability, this is an AoE attack. Not only does it do good damage, but it inflicts more bleed. It also mentions another character, Chief Kraskar, or something along those lines. He is not currently farmable in the game, so that extra bit isn't relevant at the moment. Now his first passive is pretty much the same as what we've seen before. As you upgrade it, the goblin that replaces him once he dies will get stronger the more that you upgrade that ability. So we'll skip straight to the 4th ability there, which will just capitalize on all of that bleed. But this is actually a passive attack. As soon as he gets a turn, he can deal up to 130% damage and inflict expose before he actually takes his turn for the next attack. And that expose, that will reduce the target's armor by 50%. So that not only makes this guy quite lethal, but it also makes him the first one that you really want to take out of the fight. The problem is actually getting to him. And there's another part of this whole thing that ties his goblins together that makes them so hard to take out once they're all geared up. And that's your Goblin Chief. Now this guy here is the healer, but he's not available until the last node of chapter 4 of the Shadow Side hard nodes, making him a bit more challenging to unlock. But once you do get to him, you should be able to unlock him pretty easy. He's only 15 shards to unlock him. But let's have a quick look at the moves. Now his base attack is not really going to do a lot of damage, even maxed out. But what it will do is steal boons, and it will give them to the Great Goblin or a random goblin if the Great Goblin is already dead. So that could be anything from taunts to healing. It can be counterattacks, anything like that. So whatever he steals, he's going to prioritize the Great Goblin to give them to, serving his master well, making this a very dangerous move indeed. But it's his second ability that really makes these goblins a real pain to face, and that's because it's a healer. Now once this is leveled up, this can really be a pain in the you-know-what, because it really keeps these guys alive, and he can heal every 3 rounds, and it is one of the better heals in the game as well, so he can really keep these guys alive. Now trying to target him first is a strategy that I've thought of in the past, but again he's just so difficult to get to, and the other guys that are attacking end up eating you alive while you're trying to take out their healer. For his passives, the first one is the same as the last 2 guys, so just upgrade that so when he dies you get a better version when it comes back again. But the second one, when you take out that first guy, it'll heal the guys next to him and also cleanse some Banes off the team as well. So even by taking this guy out, it's still going to heal some of the other guys on the team, making them strong once again to keep doing more damage. So you can see now, even if you're a free-to-play player, you can get one of the better teams in the game. It's just going to take a little bit longer to unlock some of those nodes where you can start to farm these guys and also unlock the Great Goblin from the daily logins. But if you think that they're annoying, there is another team that I've been thinking about. The characters that aren't farmable yet, but for any shadow players, they're ones that you will definitely want in your team, and they're the 3 Nazgul that are currently in the game. Now as I go through these quickly, I just want you to think about pairing this with the Great Goblin, who summons the Thrasher to taunt and also the Goblin Chief to heal. That way you've got that bit of a barrier to allow these Nazgul to do what they do. So let's take a look at the first one here, the Ravenous Doom. And there's nothing like a Nazgul that can heal. And because it is an OP character that's hidden behind a paywall right from the start, it can heal just with its basic attack. So you've got 210% damage once this is maxed, and also healing your most wounded character with bonus healing depending on how many Banes are on that target. The second ability is a nice tag team move with the Southern Shadow, which also inflicts weaken and expose on the target. Also can do some decent damage, so a very nice one to have there in this particular team. Then for the third attack, it's an AoE that also inflicts life conversion, meaning anyone that attacks that target will gain back a percentage of the damage in health. So the harder those characters can hit, the more that they'll be able to heal themselves, which for a lot of your attackers that might have less health, that can be hugely beneficial. And for the passive, this would be really good going up against the elves who have a lot of stealth mechanics. So it not only grants turn meter to the Nazgul when they gain stealth, but it also puts marked on those stealth targets, so that way it forces them to taunt. So even though they are stealth, they are the ones that you have to attack. And also if Frodo is the one that goes into stealth, it grants extra turn meter to all of the Nazgul. So even though this particular ability is focused on particular teams that you might come up against, the elves could be one of the meta teams in the game, especially through Arena. So if you can get a Nazgul team together, this is something that could really tear them apart like no other team will be able to do. Next we have the Blade of the East. Now this is your attacker. He's the guy that's going to be packing in the damage here that you want all of these other guys to be able to protect and keep healed up. Now he can do some pretty decent damage, but off his basic attack he can also inflict slow, which is going to be very important, especially coming up against some of your faster opposition. The more that you can slow them down, the more attacks you can pile in on particular characters. His second attack can not only attack multiple characters at a time, but it also inflicts vulnerable, which increases damage coming in by 25%. So this is a great way to tear down anyone that taunts, because you're going to attack others next to him and inflict that vulnerable on the guy that's taunting, so the next attack that comes in is going to be doing the extra damage. Attack number 3 isn't going to reach its full potential yet because the Black Beast is not currently unlockable in the game. However, the turn meter reduction is still going to be something that's very handy to have. If you've played Galaxy of Heroes, you know how important turn meter reduction is in any of these sorts of games. But it's just another way that this guy can slow you down. Now his passive also adds crit chance to not only the Nazgul but also Shadow members as well, so it's why he will work with the Goblins. And when he does hit for a critical hit, he'll also inflict bleed on the target. And the last character that we're going to have a look at today is the Southern Shadow, another hard-hitting attacker that loves to play with poison. So if we have a quick look at his first ability here, maxed out, you've got 160% damage plus poison that will last for 2 rounds. Pretty straightforward basic, but what that does is it really sets us up for that second ability there. Without poison, this thing can pack 310% damage on the target. If they do have that poison debuff, it's gonna smash them for 400% damage. And if that doesn't impress you, I don't know what will. But let's have a look at the third ability here. This one's going to hit you with more poison and another 210% damage once it is maxed out. It will also inflict disable on the opponent, which means they can only use their basic attack on their next move. So that kind of thing can really shut down a lot of your taunts, a lot of your heals, that kind of thing. So this guy really knows how to shut you down and take you out. But if you think that's all this guy has in store, let me show you his passive ability here. Not only does he grant extra damage to Shadow and Nazgul teammates, but when an opponent drops below 10% health, he gets an automatic attack on that target with his basic attack, so it will add the poison, plus he also gets an extra 90% damage on top of what he would normally do, which is essentially a death blow. So even if it's someone else that does take that target down to that 10%, he will just swoop in and try and take them out. So having these three Nazgul along with Great Goblin and the Goblin Chief, I think could be a very lethal combination, especially if you can put that into the arena. Even though it is behind a paywall, I'm sure there might be someone out there that's willing to try it out once the game is released. I'd be really interested to know what the results are. But guys, go and check out LOTR.gg. Have a look at all of the shadow characters available at the moment. I want to see if you guys can put together some different types of teams that may be a little bit harder to unlock at the very start of the game, but we'll see if anyone can come up with some really good ideas of teams that we might be able to work towards once the game does come out. Other than that, guys, that's it for this one. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget, like and sub, you know the deal. We've got plenty more coming your way. Don't miss out, and we'll catch you in the next one.